it sounds really ominous, doesn't it? It's Cheryl Donaldson who
Whoop, whoop.
runs New Gen.
Okay, so tell the listeners out there what is New Gen and why it was created.
Okay, so I suspect I've only got a short period of time to talk, Katrina. Yes.
However long, I'm happy to talk to you.
I can talk all day. You know that. Anyway, so New Gen was started about 12 months ago now. We actually created the company. And the whole point of creating the company, New Gen, which stands for New Generation, it's a new generation of care, which is specifically aimed at taking care of our black elders.
Okay.
Because what happened was I actually went to manage a care company in Birmingham, and once I actually got there and actually saw what was happening in the community to our elders, I actually thought to myself, do you know what, Cheryl, you need to do something about this. So my business partner, Vanessa Callum, and I decided that we'd actually set something up that is specifically and unapologetically aimed at black people.
Yeah.
That doesn't mean we won't take care of other people, but in terms of how we set out the stall, it is aimed at our own.
Okay. And can I ask, what are the kind of things that you've seen that made you think, hold on a minute, this isn't right?
Oh gosh, where do I start?
Wow, one of them.
Well, I mean, there were some specific things, and then there's kind of the innate stuff that you kind of know that wouldn't be okay with black people.
Okay.
So there was things like a carer would go in to see somebody and they wouldn't actually greet them when they actually went into their premises. And of course, we know that our elders, it's all about good manners at the end of the day. So they actually found that offensive. So I had to deal with that. There were also things like the same flannel being used to wash them all over. Okay. And as we know, that's not the sort of thing that is acceptable as far as we're concerned.
Yeah.
And it's also things like just the general cleanliness around people's houses. So carers would go in, and all they'd be interested in is just doing the basics and not actually taking in the whole environment in which the individual lived.
Yeah.
So it was that kind of thing, really.
Okay. And why do you think that is? Do you think that was due to funding cuts, or do you think that was just not knowing what to do with our particular elders?
I think it's a number of things, actually. There is a generic shortfall in some of the care that actually is practiced out there, in that a number of carers that I was responsible for, they hadn't actually gone through any kind of formal training.
Okay.
So the whole concept of taking care of somebody in their own home is supposed to be client-centred. It's all about the individual. It's all about their needs. It's all about making sure that they feel comfortable. When in actual fact, that translates into the carers just going in and doing what they are told to do. Okay. So a care plan, which is what's drawn up for each individual, will just say the specific tasks that need to be done. But what the carers were not doing was kind of looking around and thinking, well, actually, this needs to happen, and then report that back to their line manager to say the individual's care plan needs to be amended.
Okay.
So it was almost as though it's very robotic, put it that way, as opposed to we need to take care of the whole of the needs of the individual.
Okay. So it wasn't very holistic at all.
No, not at all.
Okay.
And that was one of the key things that we had to get sorted in terms of getting them trained up to actually know what their responsibilities were outside of just doing those specific tasks.
Definitely. And so you've been up and running now, New Gen, for a year. What kind of challenges have you faced, and of course positives, and how have you overcome them?
Oh, wow.
Bam.
That's days.
Okay.
In terms of actually setting the business up, that like any other business is actually quite challenging, in as much as making sure that you've got all of the necessary business tools in place. We had to do some consultations with our elders, and to be honest, we went to do one consultation in a home in Birmingham, which is specifically aimed at black residents.
Okay.
And when we went to see them and told them what we were actually doing, there was kind of a spokesperson, and he read out a report that he'd drawn up that he wanted to make sure that we were given.
Yeah.
And exactly what he had actually written down was pretty much why we'd set up the company, and why we were actually doing what we were doing.
Okay.
And it's interesting actually that 12 months ago he was actually talking about some of the challenges that are now coming out of this COVID situation, where they've been locked down and their needs aren't really taken care of, and all of those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So there was kind of setting it all up. That was one of the challenges. The other challenge is actually getting the right candidates to actually come forward to become carers. And we don't actually call them carers. We call them new gen care ambassadors.
Okay.
Because we wanted to make sure that the individuals recognise that they were ambassadors of the company and ambassadors of the whole service that we were providing. They're not just carers, they're actually ambassadors in every way.
I like that name.
Yeah.
I prefer it, I think. So you mentioned COVID-19. So how have you, I'm going to say, managed through these difficult times? What kind of things have you been doing?
Well, in terms of the actual business, the COVID-19 sort of dropped at not a great time for us in many respects, because we didn't have many clients on board at that point, and we were actually due to be taking on another 3 or 4. But once everybody kind of went into lockdown, it was a case of, children went home from university, or husbands didn't have to go to work, or kids didn't have to go to school, so that the actual care of the individuals was kept in-house. And, I don't blame them for not wanting anybody kind of going in because of the thing. Yeah. But what I was conscious of was the fact that because they had to stay in their homes, people that I knew in our community, because obviously well, it's not obvious, I do live in Rugby, but I'm aware of the elderly black population. A lot of them are actually living on their own in their homes. And so we were kind of conscious that, they might be suffering from not having the connections and the food, and just generally sort of feeling valued, to be honest. So based on some interactions and work that we've done through Arawak Community Trust, I actually partnered up with Adrian Haywood from the Grills in Rugby, and we actually decided to run a project which I called Carry It Come.
Okay, tell us more.
Yeah, well, the thing is that when we were actually doing the free run, because we did some free runs of soup prior to actually starting the project properly, we phone them up and say, would you like me to bring some soup? And to start off with, they say, oh, no, I don't want no soup. And I'd say, are you sure you don't want no soup? And then you'd hear this, oh, all right, then carry it come. So that's kind of where that came from. And we set up a GoFundMe page, and we have been delivering 3 meals a week and actually doing their shopping. Because, obviously we want to keep them safe in their own homes. We don't want them out and about and, kind of mingling, because as everybody probably knows by now, the black community is actually more susceptible to fatalities through the virus.
Yeah.
So that's what we've actually done. We started the project. It's been running now for 8 weeks. And sort of in the last 8 weeks, I've delivered just short of 500 meals.
Wow.
And in terms of actual shopping deliveries, I think we're up to something like 40, 45, something like that. So, it is kind of busy, and it covers people in Rugby as well as Coventry. and Nuneaton, and a couple in Birmingham. So it's gone much further than we actually anticipated.
Wow, and that's all ethnicities.
Well, to be honest with you, it's mostly black people.
Okay, cool.
There's only a couple of non-black recipients of the service. They're all black people, and most of them are all black women.
Wow. Okay. So you're doing that. You're also doing New Gen as well. What would you say if somebody wanted to start, a business or thinking about a business, during this time we've been alone for a good while? What kind of pointers would you say to them?
I'm not sure I understand the question, Kat. Repeat that for me.
So, you've started a new business.
Yes.
You've started that. You've come through the starting point of that. So, what would you say to people who have been in lockdown for 3 months and they're thinking, you know what, I want to start a new business? What kind of advice would you give them? Apart from run.
I think the most important thing, if you're starting up a business, is to actually be quite passionate about what you're doing, and know why you're doing it. Because if it's just a case of making money, or I think this is a good idea, that really isn't the best way to go. You need to be clear on why you're doing it, who would actually want it, and once you've actually started it, where is it likely to go, and how can it actually get there? I mean, there are a number of things, but you just need to be very clear about what it is that you're trying to do and why you want to do it. And you also have to look inwardly as well, because unless you have got some serious tenacity about sticking to a task and actually getting things done, you can come unstuck very, very quickly.
Wow. I feel like we can talk for ages about that.
I could.
Yeah. So I'm going to ask you a question now. What do you think makes you, as an organisation, as people, different compared to anybody else within that industry?
That's a very, very good question. And we've been asked that many times, actually, because when we started out on our journey, we were not aware of the fact that there's actually quite a number of organisations run by black people, which is providing a service to black people. And I would say that the thing that actually makes us different when we've been out and had conversations is that Vanessa and I have actually quite, we've been very clinical, I suppose, about how we've actually done things.
Okay.
We're very clear about what it is that we want to do, because although we are running a care company, there's actually 4 pillars to the business. The first pillar is actually training. We've got to make sure that the people who are working for us are very clear about what it is that they've got to do, when they've got to do it, and all of those sorts of things. The second pillar is actually employment. So we're actually looking at providing employment for individuals who 9 times out of 10 will have some kind of Caribbean African background, because there are some innate things about us that you can't teach. And then the third pillar is actually providing the domiciliary care. And what does that actually look like? What does it feel like? All of those sorts of things. And then finally, it's actually about looking at creating care homes for our elders.
Okay.
So those 4 pillars actually form the different sections or divisions of the business. But my primary purpose in terms of doing all of this is to actually create a whole new way of looking at the care for our elders. Because at the moment we're kind of an appendage. We're stuck on somewhere. So the services tend to be designed for a particular type of individual, and some exceptions will be made for our elders. Whereas we're saying we're starting out with our elders in mind, and actually moving the business forward. So we want to kind of get other people to embrace that, because talking to other organisations, it's almost an embarrassment, to be honest, to say, we're providing a service for black people. Well, it has been up until now. These last few weeks have actually made a massive difference. But up until then, people kept saying to me, you realise you're being racist, or that you're discriminating, or you can't just provide a service for black people. It's against the law. We had all of those sorts of things. And to be honest, that's actually what makes us different. I am unapologetically black, and it is very necessary, which is actually being demonstrated by kind of what's happened around, the services that our elders have had from the care industry during this COVID-19 episode.
Wow. So how have you dealt with that? Have you just thought, you know what, forget anything you've got to say about that, I'm just going to go with what I feel's right?
Absolutely. Well, it goes back to what I've just said. What I've said, if you're starting out a business, you need to be passionate and very clear about what it is that you're doing.
Yeah.
Not to be distracted or swayed from what it is that you've actually got in your mind in terms of our vision. Because our vision is about, creating a whole new landscape of care for black people. And that's what it is. It's kind of a helicopter view of the services that are provided generally, and actually thinking, well, actually, how can we make sure that we overlay that with the requirements of our community, really? So, I'm not going to be swayed. I don't care what anybody wants to say, to be honest.
I like that. So how can people get in touch with you? How can they get in contact? Is it on social media? Let us know.
Yeah, well, on social media, we've got a Facebook page, which you can find under New Gen. It's just New Gen Care. That's our Facebook page. And if you want to sort of look at our website, it's www.newgencare.org.uk. That's where you can find us there. And again, under New Gen, you can find us on Instagram and on Twitter.
Okay, and is that the same as well for Carry It Come, or is that a different set of contacts?
No. It's the same for Carry It Come as well, because Carry It Come is a project that's being run through New Gen and Nigrills.
Okay, wow. So we're coming to the last little bit of the interview. What would you like to say to the listeners out there? What kind of final thoughts would you like to say to them?
Final thoughts would be for anybody kind of listening to this, really, is to think about either your uncle, auntie, granny, or whoever it happens to be, what sort of care or support do they actually have during this really difficult time? Because although lockdowns kind of supposedly ended, they've got to stay at home, really, and away from other people for as long as we possibly can, or limit their exposure to others as much as we can. So that needs to be considered. I would also say future going forward is to actually consider your own old age in terms of, what's going to happen to you? What do you want to happen to you? What sort of services are you likely to want? How do you want to be treated? That kind of thing. Because I do think that makes a difference when you're actually communicating in general with authorities or whoever, if you're dealing with your own parents. And I would also say it would be helpful if people let us know what they would like going forward, or the sorts of things that they think is missing should they already have care for their elders. And also what I would say is that we would really appreciate help on our GoFundMe page to help us to keep the project running for longer, because we're still looking to get some support from the councils and actually putting together some bids to get some money to take us through to at least this time next year.
Okay, and is that on the New Gen website and page as well?
Yes, it is. And if you just go to the GoFundMe website and put in Carry It Come, Carry It is one word and Come is another word, it will come up anyway. Originally, we wanted to raise 3,500. So far, with the GoFundMe page and cash donations, we're actually on 3,344.
Wow.
So we haven't done too badly. But as I say, originally I'd only set it up to cover a 12-week period.
Yeah.
And obviously now we know that, you know, the need to keep our elders secure is going to be a lot longer than the original 12 weeks that I thought.
Wow. You know what? I think it's really empowering what you said as well. Not just to think of the here and now, but in the future. I think that will make
Absolutely.
a great difference. And I really appreciate, you know, you coming on. And, you know, I love all the work you do anyway. But I'll share the GoFundMe page. And if you can just say it one more time, because some people are asking, how do you spell New Gen again? If you just say it one more time for me so they know, that'd be great.
Right. It's N for November, U for uniform, G for Genesis, E for Echo, N again for November. New Gen Care, CARE.
Thank you.
New Gen Care. Yeah?
Yeah, got it. So, first of all, I just want to say thank you for doing the interview because I know you're so busy. And of course,
Yep.
I hope that you're keeping safe and keeping well as well.
Yes, mask and gloves and gel and everything, head tie and all of it.
Definitely. So, before we go, I just want to say thank you for your time, of course, and, you know, speaking to me. And I hope that the company just keeps on rising even though we're going through difficult times.
Thank you very much for having me on, Kat, because I know it's usually a musical thing that you do, so I really appreciate you taking some time out for us.
Anytime. So we'll speak again soon, yeah?
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Anytime.
Thanks a lot, babe.
No worries.
Thank
Speak
you.
soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye. Yes, people, please do go and support, okay? It's a great cause. I'll be also sharing the GoFundMe page, so please do go and support. Please do go and check out the great work that people are doing, even though we're going through difficult times. And remember, it's called New Gen. So it's NUGEN, okay? So we're going to be playing some more great music for you. And